Nick.
Welcome to That Superhero Thing podcast, where we discuss the latest superhero and comic book movies and TV shows. I'm your host, Nick, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Anthony.
Hello.
Hello. I'm not going to ask you how you are, Anthony, because we've already done this once.
Yeah.
For everybody listening, we got about 15 minutes into the podcast, but Anthony's computer died, so we're gonna go again and do it all again. We're gonna do the news again. It's not gonna be as good as last time. We were commenting on how good we thought the podcast was going, and it died. So this is like tribute by Tenacious D. We couldn't remember the greatest podcast in the world, so this is just a tribute to it. So let's just try. We'll just try our best. Anyway, busy week for comic book nerds and geeks like us. It was, yeah, surprisingly. So we've had Zack Snyder's Justice League on Thursday, and we had Falcon The Winter Soldier on Friday. So we're recording this on Saturday, so I would say yesterday, but yeah, it's on Sunday when you guys hopefully will be listening to this. So just to let you know what we're going to do our normal episode today again, and we'll go through the news, we'll go through Falcon The Winter Soldier. Justice League, it's a big long film, isn't it? So we're going to do a separate episode for that. So we're going to have a bonus episode that's going to come out on Tuesday, so make sure you're subscribed and ready to listen to that as well, rather than just trying to cram it all into one 6-hour-long podcast, which is probably how long it's going to take us to record this. But yeah, so let's crack on with the news then. So first bit of news, we're going to do Marvel news again. First bit of news is regarding Deadpool 3. So news is kind of a lack of news. So Zazie Beetz, who played Domino in Deadpool 2, did an interview with Collider this week. She said that she's not heard anything about Deadpool 3 from Marvel. She's not had any phone calls, any contact, or anything like that. She said she'd love to return for Deadpool 3 and would ideally like to be in her own movie, which is like, well, of course you would. Who wouldn't want their own Marvel movies centered around them? Self-plugging again, yeah, completely.
If anyone's listening, yeah, we'll do something. We'll do a Marvel film.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, two geeks in a podcast, the movie. We'll do that. But yeah,
we'd be like Ant-Man's mates, wouldn't we? Telling stories and being
we would, yeah, just
extras.
not being good, yeah, just being good. Not to say that the supporting cast in Ant-Man aren't good, Anthony.
Oh, no, because they're funny. But
let's backtrack.
They've got no help to the story, really, have they? Let's be honest.
I don't know, Louise.
They're just a bit of comic filler.
They are, yeah. That's what we are. Yeah. Do you know what? If I could be classed as Marvel comic filler, I would be happy.
Story of my life.
That is it. Right. So I think she was good in Deadpool 2. She was the power set was great. The fact that Deadpool just didn't really believe it until I suppose he saw it that she had powers, that was good. So yeah, I'd like to see her in number 3. I don't think it's too much to worry about her not being contacted yet. That's if she's telling the truth, I suppose, because we've not even got a release date or a production date on it yet.
No.
So yeah, hopefully she will get the call, but potentially with it, I suppose him coming over from the Fox universe, it might somehow be multiverse related or start off multiverse related, so maybe nobody else from that universe will come over. I'm going to try and do the segue this time. Speaking of multiverse, I did it right.
Well done.
I did it well. That's good. That, yeah. Nobody needs to know. So speaking of the multiverse, some Doctor Strange 2 news this week. Discussing films, sources have said that for the sequel, Doctor Strange is going to be rocking a more comic accurate costume. So in the comics, it's pretty similar to what we've seen in the film so far, I suppose. But he's got like the yellow gloves, and he's got like a big white crest on his top.
It's funny because you say yellow gloves, and all I can think is someone at the kitchen sink with the marigolds.
I was just thinking that as soon as you said yellow gloves, yeah. But he had them in. They did look alright. He had them in Thor Ragnarok. Taika Waititi's obviously decided that he wanted to go down the more comic accurate look, and it looked good. I think at first when I saw it, I was a bit like, oh, that's a bit silly for want of a better word, but it was good. Yeah. It was after like a minute of seeing it on screen, it didn't look out of place. It just looked like that's a bit more comic accurate. It was good.
I mean, they make it work, don't they? Let's be honest.
Yeah, and it's again, it's more Taika's style, and I think with Sam Raimi, it's more his sort. With the Spider-Man movies, they were a bit, they were brilliant movies, the original Spider-Man movies, but they were a little bit more goofy and a little bit more, I don't know if it's comic accurate after like the Green Goblin and stuff, but they went more down that route. So I don't think Sam Raimi will be scared to go down a more, the route of a more comic accurate costume. So that should be good. Bit of news about Black Widow. Last week we talked about Disney CEO Bob Chapek saying that it was all set for cinema release, exclusively released in theatres, still on the 7th of May. He's backtracked a bit now. He was interviewed by Bloomberg, and he's now saying that how they're going to release it and when they're going to release it is going to be a last minute decision. So that is basically him saying it's not coming on the 7th of May, in my opinion. Wouldn't surprise me, as we've already said. Venom 2 was set for release in June, and that's been pushed back to September, 17th of September. That's been pushed back. And I think if you've got something like Venom pushing the dates back because of COVID, even though the theatres will be open by that point, that Sony are obviously concerned that even though they might be open, they're not going to get the footfall. So I'll be surprised if Disney goes solely with a theatre release. I mean, maybe they'll do joint cinema release in Disney Plus, but I can't see it just being released in cinemas on the 7th of May. It's just not going to make enough money. Do you think it will?
I mean, I think it might be. I think they've started discussing doing like simultaneous ones so that people can choose whether they go to the cinema or not.
Yeah.
So I've got a weird feeling that might become a thing. Even if they say, theatrical release week 1 and then the Disney Plus release 2 weeks later, or something like that, so that the theatre still has its time to get its own stuff in, but then it will start getting streamed 2 weeks later. Just so that, at the end of the day, there are people who are going to be hardcore fans that still don't feel comfortable enough going to a public place yet. And that's just, that's going to be something that we're going to be dealing with for probably quite some time, to be honest. Yeah. As much as it's all good, the theatres have started opening back in America in the last week. They're looking at opening kind of in the next couple of months with us. But nothing's guaranteed, and this is the problem. So they're trying to forecast something that everyone's been trying to forecast for the past 12 months and been failing miserably at. So it's just one of those things for the minute. Everyone's trying to be safe rather than sorry.
100%. I think they'll go down the Disney Plus route though. I think they can't delay it again because they've started Phase 4 now. Yeah. And so I think they just need to. They just need to crack on with it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so a bit more news. We had some Kevin Feige has been interviewed again. He spends a lot of time getting interviewed, doesn't he? He's always been interviewed for something. This at the moment, obviously, he is indeed. He's busy. He's a busy man. So he's done some interviews around Falcon and Winter Soldier. Clearly, promoting that. EW, I've done an interview with him, and there were a couple of interesting bits of information that he revealed there. So probably the first bit, which again, is he telling the truth or not? There's been a bit of talk about Chris Evans coming back to the role of Captain America, or maybe not Captain America, but Steve Rogers, maybe even Old Man Steve. But Kevin Feige has now categorically said it is not happening. There's no plans for him to come back at the moment. He's not going to say he is, though, is he? He's not going to go, you got me. He's going to show up at the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier. He's going to be Captain America again. He's not going to go down that route. So I'd take that with a pinch of salt. He did give a bit more information, though, about Falcon and Winter Soldier. And he's confirmed that, which I think was suspected from trailers and stuff, that a place called Madripoor is going to appear in Falcon the Winter Soldier. Now, I didn't know a massive amount of this about it. I'd heard a lot about it, and I know it's got quite big ties to Wolverine. In the comics, it was the place where Cap first met Wolverine. Wolverine was its protector, so that was his role for a while, to protect this island of Madripoor. And I think it was even mentioned as well in the Avengers movie. I think Maria Hill mentioned it. I think that him saying that has not done a lot for people trying not to theorize, because I think now everyone's like, "Oh, Wolverine, boss, we're getting Wolverine. Hugh Jackman's going to roll up in the premiere," which spoilers, he didn't. But yeah. So whether again, it's so heavily tied to mutants, though, the island of Madripoor. So whether we're then going to get that, further down the line, I don't know. Hopefully, we've got to bring him in at some point. And I know we did the theories about it last week, but hopefully it's gonna, we're gonna start getting maybe like not an X-Men film, but start getting more hints at mutants sooner rather than later. On Thursday we got a little video and a look at a new poster for Loki. Timing wise, by Marvel, they dropped that right when it was all kicking off with Zack Snyder's Justice League. They dropped it right at that moment when all the tweets were coming out, which is clever marketing by them.
Very clever.
It's a pretty standard poster. It's Loki. He's got the prison clothes on, and he's got like a neck, a collar. He's got an
asbo.
He's got like a Loki. Breaking news: Loki has a neck. He's got like a collar. It looks like it's gonna. It looks like something from Suicide Squad where it's gonna blow up if he doesn't do as he's told.
Like one of them zappy dog collars or something.
Exactly, a zappy dog collar, Anthony. One of those zappy dog collars for Loki. And then last bit of Marvel news we found out, which I'd completely forgotten about, but you pointed out, we finally found out who New Master 69 was. We finally know. I kind of hope this isn't canon, but they have Marvel and Xbox, Microsoft have released a trailer, like a bit of a promo trailer for Falcon the Winter Soldier, which has got Sam playing on Xbox in a store, and the guy serving him is the guy from Captain America and Winter Soldier who serves Steve and Natasha in the Apple store, and he's back. He's working for Microsoft now. He's a traitor to Apple. He's
getting around, isn't he?
He is. He's decided Apple's not for me anymore. I don't agree with all the stuff they do. I'm going to Microsoft to work for Bill. So Bill headhunted him clearly. So he's over there now, and he says at the end of the trailer that his gamer tag's New Master 69, which clearly everyone will know, I'm sure, was the guy who was winding up Korg in Avengers Endgame. That the dickhead, as Korg says.
The dickhead's on again.
The dickhead. We shouldn't be doing accents. But yeah, he was. So that was it. That was interesting. I hope it's not canon. Does it matter? Does it really matter if New Master 69 was revealed in an Xbox trailer? Probably not.
Do you know what? It's just a bit of fun, innit? And it's to make everyone go, bloody hell, lol.
It makes everyone go, that's one of them. Yeah, I get see what you did.
But you'll have people that are disappointed that it wasn't Loki, because that was kind of the big theory, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that it was Loki just finding another way to wind everyone up.
That would have been decent. Good tie-in. Right, a bit of DC news. Clearly, the big DC news this week was that we finally got the Snyder Cut. Again, won't go into it too much. It's good. It's really good. Really enjoyed it. But we'll do a full review. On Tuesday. We'll get that released. Little bit of it's kind of news, sort of like something that happened. Let's call it something that happened this week rather than news. Last week, obviously, we had the big issue with HBO Max leaking it early and people were trying to watch Tom and Jerry, and they got to watch the Snyder Cut instead for the first hour and a half, 2 hours. We had a similar thing in the UK. So, did you see this? Did you hear about this?
No, I don't think so.
So so it came out on Thursday morning, obviously, and it was on. So in the UK, we had it on Sky and Now TV, which is it's like a part of Sky, and it was on demand, so you can watch it at any point. But they were also supposed to be showing it at 7 o'clock in the morning UK time, and it was set for Sky Cinema. And when people tried, and it had the picture on there, 4-hour running time, everything like that, and when you played it, it played a Christmas movie with Sarah Jessica Parker instead called The Family Stone, and people were fuming. People were livid. They weren't happy. I can't imagine. I hope some people I hope one person got like 15 minutes in and was thinking, what the hell is this? This is
I've
not
done
what
that
I
in
remember.
the cinema before, you know.
What, been in the wrong film?
Yeah, I was like, this isn't the film we booked. But it wasn't until about 10 minutes in. I thought it was like one of them shorts, before the film started. And I was like, what is this?
What was the film?
And then we had to go back out and double check. And I think we were going with the family, and I think we were planned to go see like Cars or something like that. And we'd been put in for, do you remember Monster House?
Yeah, the kids. There was another kids
Yeah,
film.
but we had quite young kids with us, and it absolutely
Oh my god!
So we were
Not that I want. Not I don't want
the
the kids to be like emotionally scarred, but it would have been quite entertaining if it was something like really rough. But that's a bit mean. Actually.
Honestly,
but,
my little cousin had PTSD after that.
Oh no!
It was really funny.
Well,
but it wasn't
well,
at
do you
the
know what?
same time.
Now I think somebody might have sat and watched The Family Stone for 15 minutes and thought, "Wow, this is a weird start to the Justice League film." But yeah, so yeah, we had that happen on Thursday morning. Bit more Justice League news. Obviously, Zack Snyder's done a few interviews, loads of interviews this week.
That's all he's done.
He did. It is all he's done. Yes, he's promoting it. Not that he really needed.
He's on furlough, so that's what it is. It's just interviews.
That's what. It's him and Kevin Feige trying to compete to see who can do more interviews this month.
Yeah.
So in one of his interviews, he talked a little bit about like what he was allowed to do and what he plans that he had for Justice League that he didn't end up happening. Obviously, the sequels, which we'll talk about in the bonus episode. But he did mention that he did want to put the Green Lantern. He wants to put a Green Lantern in the movie. Now we do, spoilers. We do get a Green Lantern in the movie, like a tiny little bit, like a bit of a cameo from a Green Lantern, which I think is the same one that we saw in the Joss Whedon version. But he
got a bit more excited about it than I thought I would as well.
What, seeing the Green Lantern in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good, wasn't it? Yeah. It was. It's no spoilers, but it's sort of setting up to a degree another a Green Lantern movie. But apparently he'd originally wanted to put Jon Stewart in there, who's obviously one of the famous Green Lanterns, but Warner Brothers apparently told him no. And he also had a plan at one point to try and get Ryan Reynolds back. To come back in as Hal Jordan. I don't think he'd have touched that with a barge pole.
No.
Like, not that anything against Zack Snyder, but I just don't think he wants to go anywhere near that again. And he's probably tied contractually to Deadpool and stuff. Speaking of Ryan Reynolds and Green Lantern, he on St. Patrick's Day he watched Green Lantern for the first time ever. He said he didn't even watch it at the premiere. All the way through, and it was the first time he watched it. I like to think I had something to do with this because I tweeted the day before, because for some reason it was on. Green Lantern was on like the day before St. Patrick's Day, and I watched about half an hour of it, and I tweeted Ryan Reynolds and was like, "How did you mess this up?" I wasn't giving him shit, like, but I tweeted and I was like,
I don't know how that doesn't sound like it's giving him shit.
Well, it wasn't. I didn't mean it that way. I was sort of saying like I was being complimentary. I tweeted it, not that he read it. I mean, maybe he did. But I tweeted and said, "How can you have such a good cast with Ryan Reynolds as Hal Jordan and Taika Waititi in it, and then it ends up being such a bad movie?" Because it should have been on paper a fantastic movie, and then weirdly the next day he basically put on Twitter and was like, I'm going to watch Green Lantern. So I like to think we're 6 episodes into the podcast. We've got a little bit of power now. Ryan Reynolds is listening to us.
We've been invited to red carpet events.
Yeah, all the time. All the time. We're having to turn them down. We were gonna go to something this week, but with Zack Snyder's Justice League and Falcon The Winter Soldier coming out at the same time, we just didn't have time to squeeze it in.
We've been invited to Black Widow, but I'm not sure anyone's going to turn up.
No, it'll just be us.
We've been postponed and we haven't been told.
Just us in our face masks. Last couple of bits of news then, not Marvel or DC, so let's call it random news. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, proper random, started production this week. The director Jeff Fowler put on Twitter that it was starting production. I think it was Wednesday. I'm looking forward to that. Sonic 1 was unexpectedly good.
Yeah.
Have you watched it? Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Not
good,
that long
it?
ago, actually, but I really enjoyed it. And
light-hearted,
I must admit,
funny.
The kid jumped out to me at the end when Tails appeared. Spoilers.
Yeah, it was good, that. Yeah, spoilers, yeah. Sorry if we've just ruined Sonic the Hedgehog for anybody. Anthony.
I mean, it's a bit late now. It's been out for how long?
It's a bit late. Somebody might have been waiting, though. They might have wanted to watch it at the... waited to watch 1 and 2 together. You never know. Ruined it. You've just ruined it for somebody. And then, bit of Star Wars news. Mina Masood, who played Aladdin in Aladdin, for Disney's Aladdin, the new one, he's been rumoured for a couple of weeks now to be playing Ezra Bridger in the Ahsoka TV series. So for anyone who doesn't know, i.e. Anthony, Ezra Bridger is a...
you're not lying.
I'm not lying. Ezra Bridger is a young Jedi. He is one of the main characters, if not the main character in Star Wars Rebels. Quite, everyone, he's the main character in there. He goes from like little rogue to Jedi master type thing, and he's
Yeah.
rumored to be in Ahsoka. And as I said, he's been rumored to be playing him for a little while now. And he put a picture on Instagram. It's just a picture of him with his top off. I don't quite understand why we needed to have him with his top off, but he is. And he puts a quote from Ezra on there, so that's got everybody now saying,
Wow.
you know, I can't remember what the quote is. I should have written it down, but I didn't.
I don't know
but
if
it's
you
a quote
remember.
from Ezra Bridger.
I don't know if you remember, but after Aladdin, he was in the papers quite a lot because he made this complaint that he was now
couldn't get a part.
typecast and couldn't get any more parts afterwards. And I just think, I mean, I hope he's good. We've only seen him in Aladdin so far, so
Yeah.
you know, I don't know for certain, but is part of this because he spat his dummy out and Disney are trying to,
Potentially.
I don't know.
Potentially, but he was good. He was good. He was good.
He
In it. I
wasn't-
don't
he
know.
wasn't bad,
I don't know how you get typecast. Like, it's not like I agree that I know obviously people are saying he struggled to, you know, and he's probably has struggled to get a part, but I don't know whether I'd put it down to typecasting because it's like it's one
wouldn't.
film and it was Aladdin. Do you know what I mean? But he was good in it. So you know, if he is going to be in Ahsoka, I'm quite interested to see. I think he'd be good as a Jedi. So I'm looking forward to that. So as I said, quite a bit of news, mostly centered around Falcon. There's been loads of other news this week, but it's been mainly Falcon the Winter Soldier promo and Justice League promo. So let's get on to Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So what we'll do, again, I should have said this at the start. I always forget to do this, but we'll put in the description. Not that it matters now if you're here and you've reached this point in the podcast, but I'll put in the description what time this is, and you can sit there and think Nick didn't mention it at the start. I've had to listen to him waffle on about the news for 40 minutes or however long we've been going. No, not 40 minutes, 21 minutes.
We've not done too bad today, actually.
We've not done too bad. We've flown through the news. We're getting much more succinct with it and less waffle. Not that we're waffling, you know, we're waffling now. Like,
I was going to say that is a bad case of waffling.
Let's just crack on. Sorry, people, don't turn off. Right, so let's start. So we had the first episode of Falcon Winter Soldier. So what we'll do, like we did with every episode that we went through of WandaVision, we'll do a bit of a breakdown of the episode, you know, run through the episode, bits that stood out to us, little theories, because we've got to theorize. That's what we love to do. And then we'll do a bit of a review after we've done that. So we've both watched it. Anthony's watched it twice. I've watched it twice, so we know what we're talking about. So the episode, we hope, maybe, yeah. So the episode is called New World Order. I think I had a lot of ideas before going in as to what we were gonna get, and it's not what I expected, but not in a bad way. No. I'm doing this the wrong way around. I'm doing my review first, but it was a little bit of a slower episode than I thought it was going to be, but it was good.
Do you think?
It did a really good. Yeah, I thought it was quite slow. I think it did a really good job of setting everything up though.
Yeah,
but
I think it was a good introduction.
Episode.
But I also like the fact that it started with action.
Yes, but I think when it started, to be fair, when it started, so let's crack on. So it actually opens with Sam ironing a suit in like his bedroom, which is the promo pictures that we saw, and we all thought it might have been Cap's funeral. He's getting ready for Cap's funeral. So it's got him sorting his suit out, putting his suit on, putting the shield away, and then we hear voiceover from Endgame. So it's Steve saying, "How does it feel?" And Sam says it feels like it's someone else's, and Steve obviously says it isn't. And then we jump back in time to the action basically. So it's Sam doing a mission. He's set up on a Air Force cargo jet, and he's basically being told that there's a terrorist group called LAF who have kidnapped a military liaison, and they're basically taking him to Libyan airspace so that they can't chase anymore. And they want Sam to go and get him, and we get introduced to a new supporting character who's quite funny, to be fair, a guy called Torres, and he's his man on the ground really, so he's like his eyes from below. So we see Sam obviously go after this guy who's been taken. He chases down this hijacked plane, and we see Batroc the Leaper on there from the Winter Soldier, who's played by George St. Pierre, who, to be fair, as soon as I saw him, I was like, how's this going to go? Because I don't feel like in Winter Soldier, Steve found it a particularly easy fight. It seemed like a bit of a... I don't want to say he struggled with it, but it seemed relatively even in Winter Soldier. So I did think how's Sam gonna cope with it, but he gets it. You know, he goes into the plane. He absolutely annihilates most of these terrorists. So he's clearly been doing like hand to hand combat. So he's clearly been doing like a lot of training. He gets shot at and he puts the wings up as the shield, and I thought that was I was dead impressed with that. I know it's a tiny little thing, but I thought that was really cool how he just created a shield from the wings. And then he gets beaten in the fight to a degree by Batroc, and they get away, and then we have this huge aerial chase, which again is the action. We're only like 5 minutes into the episode at this stage, and we're just like into action straight away. It was like a really good like aerial chase scene, and it made me think straight away. It was like how different this is to WandaVision, because WandaVision was very, very brilliant, very, very slow paced. It was more of a mystery, and it was just like this is like completely different. We're just getting an action show, and it was good. Even watching it like not in the cinema, it did feel very, very cinematic. Yeah, it was really good. Really enjoyed it. But then it did slow down the episode, and as I said, it's not a bad thing. It really, really laid the groundwork, the episode, and it really it went quick. Like WandaVision always felt like they went really quick. It did fly by the episode.
Yeah.
So we jumped to Tunisia, which is basically after the mission has been going on, and we see Sam and his mate Torres, and Sam's fixing Red Wing, and we find out at that point that Sam's been working for the Air Force for about 6 months, and I think this is set 9 months after Endgame, so he's obviously been back for a little while now. Torres basically, I think this is setting up one of the villains maybe for the series, but there's another terrorist organization, and they're called the Flag Smashers, and they basically thought it's what inventive, I know, yeah, it is, isn't it? Inventive name. Good name. I don't know if they're from the comics. I don't know everything about Marvel from the comics. But again, if you're listening, because I know there's a few people who will know this sort of thing, who do listen to the podcast, let us know. Let me know on Twitter. I'll get a DM from Nate now. Watch. Go on, Nate. Tell me if the Flag Smashers have been in the comics. They basically believe, according to Torres, they reckon that the world was better during the blip. Probably because they clearly thought that not maybe what the Thanos had done was right, but it was a more unified world. So there weren't, I think, as Torres says, there weren't borders. It was sort of everybody maybe pulling together, and he says he sort of understands where they're coming from. They might not be right, but he gets it. And to be fair, you do get it, but I think that's what makes a better villain, when you've got somebody who's not reasonable, but it's not just like, I want to kill everybody because I like killing people. Do you know what I mean? And even like Thanos, he what he wanted to do, it was complete genocide, but you got it, as screwed up as his logic was, you got the logic and it fitted. And I feel like we're already straight into this as, we get you get the logic behind it, which I think is a good sign, because as we've said multiple times, Marvel have a villain problem, or have had a villain problem. I don't think they do now, but they've had a villain problem in the past where it was just like, it was the bad guy's the bad guy because he likes to be the bad guy. Whereas WandaVision, obviously, we got a great villain, which was to a degree Wanda and Agnes or Agatha, and I feel like straight away, we're setting up. But we knew, we know Zemo's tied to it. Yeah. And again, he his reasoning was not reasonable, but you understood it.
Do you know what? Do you know what I really like about it as well? The fact that we're looking at the realistic side of the events as well. Yeah. So often when you have kind of the comic book storylines and stuff, everything's so fantastical that there's never really the underlying explanation behind anything. And I like the way that this episode, because he does it later on as well with the mortgage and loans and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. There's a very realistic side to what the effect has had on the world with this 5-year blip and stuff. Yeah. So I love the fact that it's still an ongoing thing. It's not something that's, because that story's ended, it's now kind of gone away.
Everyone's back to So people are still, the ramifications of the blip are still ongoing, and people are having to live with it.
And it's seeing how it affects them.
Yeah, but even from a like when you're talking about how it can be, comic book movies can be fantastical. I mean, it shows how, and I know, so sitting here praising Marvel to a degree, but it shows how diverse it is, because we've just had WandaVision, which is about a witch with a magic spell book, and I know fundamentally it was like human. It was about her grief of losing a husband, but like a boyfriend, but it was, it was about witches and powers and robots and all that sort of stuff, and it's not grounded at all. So now we don't know how fully grounded the show is going to be, but to be bringing it down to it's a terrorist organization, and Sam's not got powers and all that sort of stuff. To be able to make WandaVision work and then straight to this, and I know we're only an episode in, but it was a fantastic episode, and it just shows how diverse the storytelling is.
But this was the same reason
Marvel.
that I loved the Christopher Nolan Batman films,
because they were so down to earth.
The Joker wasn't some fantastical person that fell into the vat of whatever it was, the radiation-y stuff, and all of that.
It could
kind of
happen,
stuff.
basically,
It was
couldn't
a
it?
madman, and
it wouldn't.
Again, it was that kind
It's
of.
a stretch, but it could happen.
It's a stretch, but it's closer to reality than most people have ever tried to go, and that's the kind of thing that I really like. It kind of brings it to kind of down to earth, basically, in a way. So
segue. I've got a segue. Talking of down to earth, Torres then comes up with a theory about where he thinks Captain America is.
Yes.
He does.
I want to talk about this as well.
That segue worked. Well done, Anthony. We didn't set that up, everybody listening, that we didn't get this far in the podcast last time.
No, we didn't.
Everyone's sitting there thinking that was shit. So Torres seems to basically ask Sam and says that there's a theory that Steve, and we don't know if he's dead at this point. The way that people talk about him, it's all in the past tense.
I still don't think a lot of people know that he's old.
Yeah, he might have just disappeared. And he just died as part of it. Yeah, potentially. Yeah.
Well, maybe I don't know whether like they've faked a death or whether they might just not have said anything and he's kind of missing. But I don't particularly think.
Well, this is after
widely known thing that he's now old.
This is after Far From Home, innit? So it's it must be after it.
I think so. Yeah,
because it's like 6 to 9 months, isn't it? Or if it's not after it, it's roughly the same. It must be roughly the same time, and they had Steve in the in memoriam, but that, because I suppose we're getting into theories a little bit, but that, I suppose, where is Steve is a big question, and I think they're purposely leaving it vague as to where he is. So
breaking the fourth wall. I like the fact that after WandaVision and them specifically doing a show where all our questions weren't going to be answered. To then put a scene in the first episode of the next show talking about people's speculation about what's going on.
Yeah,
I think
it's quite good.
Brilliant.
It's very meta, isn't it?
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, when they filmed this, they didn't know what the reaction to WandaVision was going to be, but they'll have assumed that we'd have gone crazy and thought about a million different things that could have happened that were never going to happen, like we did, and then. I don't know whether it's like trolling at us a little bit in that way, being like, here's a mad theory. Do you know what I mean?
We're just all Marvel pawns. I'm sure they didn't know that, they'd film this well before they released, obviously, WandaVision, but I mean. They knew what they were doing. They knew by putting like Quicksilver, fake Pietro in and stuff like that it's going to make people theorize. So it probably is just like we knew this was going to wind you up, so we're gonna put a little nod in and a theory. So the theory in this is not Torres's theory, but what he's asking about is that there's a theory that Steve is on the moon. And he's living on the moon now, and he's watching over everybody on the moon. And Sam might have flown him up to the moon with his wings, and it's like, nah. And he's just the look on Sam's face. It's like, what are you talking about, sort of thing. How ridiculous. But yeah, so that's his theory. We then jump to Washington, which is straight after the very first scene we think, which is obviously Sam's putting his suit on, not his super suit, it's like shirt and tie, super suit, not his where's my super suit?
That's exactly what I thought of then.
Not his super suit. He knows where that one is. His shirt and tie at the start of the episode. We digress. And he's doing a speech, and again he's talking about Steve in the past tense. We don't know if he's dead. We get a cameo from Rhodey, from Don Cheadle, who wasn't expecting. Yeah, no. Dead impressed to see him. and he basically it's Sam. He's given the shield to the Smithsonian. So obviously, in Winter Soldier, we see that the Smithsonian Museum has got a big section for Cap, even when he was still alive and running around. And he's given the shield to them. And there's a guy there, and he says you've made the right decision when he's handed it over.
Which we all know means you've made the wrong decision.
It does, yeah.
Any superhero film,
exactly. And to be fair, we all know from the trailers what's going on with it, but it gets confirmed obviously at the end of the episode. Yeah. And then we have like a little conversation between Rhodey and Sam, and he's asking him what he literally says, why didn't you take up the mantle? And he refers back to the conversation that he's had with Steve, and he says, it didn't feel like my shield. It's it's Steve's. Yeah. And to cut away from the episode, he's given up the shield here, and my first thought was, I mean, we've seen umpteen trailers for Falcon The Winter Soldier, and probably one of the most prominent bits in any of the trailers is Sam flinging the shield around like his garden or something, and Bucky catching it, and it's like, well, when's that gonna take place? Have they just ruined? I mean, I think we all know where it's going this season, but have they just now we know that he's going to end up with that shield back, or is it classic Marvel putting stuff in trailers that's not going to happen?
Yeah, you see, to me that kind of starts to make me think, is this them working together to get it off whoever's got it?
Yeah, but he's already got a shield in those. He's got a shield in those trailers, hasn't he?
Yeah, no, I get that. But what I mean is, like, if he's
the whole story
if we've been made to think that it's the fight between him and Bucky on who gets the shield, but in fact it's them working together to get the shield back off somebody else. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I think it's just like the way they've shown it to us has made us assume one thing, and it could be those actual scenes, but it's something completely different.
Well, do you know what? I had this conversation with somebody on Twitter, and I did wonder, and it's obviously not turned out to be right, but I wondered whether we're gonna, obviously, we've only just met, we only meet John Walker at the end of the episode. We'll get to that in a second, but I did wonder whether we're gonna sort of lose John Walker maybe very early on in the series. Like episode 2, he's gonna not be able to hack this and get killed, or is he gonna be, and it then becomes them trying to get the shield from someone else, or them not fighting over who's going to be the new Captain America, but sort of competing for it. But we don't know where it's going to go, but it's typical Marvel. It could go anywhere, but at the same time, WandaVision wasn't sort of really elaborate and jumping all over the place, and it was a pretty steady story. So maybe we're just thinking too much into it, and all the theorizing from WandaVision is going to leave us disappointed, but potentially.
Well, we've got to remember though, as much as it's still Marvel, it's still a completely different series. So, it's not going to be the same setup, and I don't think it's going to be necessarily the wild speculation that we had in that one, because the whole idea was that it was starting out as a mystery, whereas this one's not so much. The talk has been that this is predominantly an action series. So it's not. I think there are. I think there's things. I mean, we'll do it in ridiculous. I mean, I've got theories already. Yeah. We're gonna get them to a point, but it's just.
I think there's little hints left. I don't know. I think there's little hints left throughout the first episode and some of the trailers that make it potentially out to be something a bit bigger. But we'll get there when we get to theories. So So after that, and he's talking to Rhodey, we jump to classic 90s Winter Soldier. So clearly a flashback, but we see it's a hotel, I assume. We see a group of people who just look like random people staying in the hotel, and then again we don't know who they are, but guys in suits looking shady as anything. And then Bucky, full Winter Soldier kit, the long hair, the silver arm, which obviously is a telltale sign that this is set in the past. Goes in and just tears through him. Obviously just doing a job for Hydra, and he even says at the end when he kills the last guy, "Hail Hydra," as he kills him. And then the point of the flashback is there's a guy in the hotel who is just clearly, and it's stated for later in the episode, he's just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he's frantically trying to get into his room, and begging begging Bucky or the Winter Soldier not to kill him, and he does, because he just shows the guy's got absolutely no mercy, and that was quite hard hitting that, because it's like this guy was just like, it was just pure bad luck on his part. He wasn't a target or anything like that. And it's obviously what's made, and he wakes up from it. Bucky wakes up,
and it was all because he was
nightmare.
being sensible and not going for drinks with his mates.
Exactly, yeah, and it was, and it just, I think, in films in general, sounds really deep this, but all the killing can just be sort of seen to be like, it's it's just part of the movie. Loads of people get shot and people, it's collateral damage and all that sort of stuff. But it gets explored later on as well. It's like all these things have consequences, and this was just some random dude. And you see random people getting killed in films all the time in the background, and it's just like, you didn't even think twice about it. But just having that like extra 5 seconds spent on the guy, begging to not be killed and just saying, I won't say anything, and it just does make it makes it carry a lot more weight, to the point obviously where Bucky's having nightmares about it. So he wakes up and we see Bucky then go to therapy. He obviously denies the fact that he's having a nightmare, and we find out from his therapist that having the therapy is a part of his condition of the fact that he's been pardoned for all his crimes. We
also noticed, sorry, before you go on, that he slept on the hard floor as well.
I noticed that,
which is very soldier PTSD.
But it's a nod back to the Winter Soldier as well.
Yeah,
because when at the very start of the Winter Soldier, when Cap first meets Sam, and he does the whole on your left thing.
Yeah.
Sam, he doesn't, literally, they're not even having a conversation, and Sam just says, "It's your bed, isn't it? It's too soft." Because they'd sleep on they'd sleep on the floor and use rocks for pillows, and he says all that, and I thought it was quite a clever tie back to that, and it puts. Even though Bucky's been like the whole, but he's been the bad guy and all that sort of stuff, and he's been a bit of a sort of like an anti-hero to a degree up until now. It just puts him straight into the same boat as Sam and Steve. It's like he's had the same experiences as them, and I know he's got the same story as Steve, and I think it gets hammered on a few times that this guy's 106 years old. He's the anti-Steve, or he is, he's good now, but it's used very cleverly. Like, it's blink and you miss it as well, but just to sort of confirm that they've been through the exact same thing.
And in the therapy, he literally says, 90 years of going from fight to fight. That's all I've done. That's all I've known.
Yeah. So I thought that was quite clever by Marvel, and he tells her that he's got his list of amends, and it's obviously things he wants to put right that he's done wrong, and he's telling the therapist about some senator who rose to power because of all the things that he was doing as the Winter Soldier, and he's basically going and making sure that she gets out of power, and the therapist is like running through these 3 rules with him, and saying you didn't break the 3 rules, and the first rule is that you can't do anything illegal, and the second rule is that no one gets hurt, and then she says you didn't break rule number 3, did you? And he said, of course I didn't, but then I don't think we get explained what rule number 3 was.
I think rule number 3 is that he is
he's got to not be the Winter Soldier anymore, and he's.
I think it's the reminder that he's not the Winter Soldier. He is.
Because I wondered that, but because it didn't, because I'm not very deep clearly, and it wasn't expressly stated that this is rule number 3.
I think it's the whole self-identity thing. So I think the rule 3 is there to remind him that he is now essentially a civilian. He is just a person. He's not this Winter Soldier. He's not this monster that he was before. I think it's the therapist's way of separating the two.
Right.
But I mean, I don't know for certain, but that's how it came across to me. The third rule is you are Bucky. You're not the Winter Soldier. You can't refer to yourself as that anymore because you need to disassociate yourself with it.
Yeah, okay, I get that. Yeah, because he says to her, "Look, I used to be the Winter Soldier. I'm now James Buchanan Barnes." Yeah, okay, cool. And then so with the book, with the list of amends, obviously that's another nod to Steve, because Steve had his little book in the Winter Soldier, and then I've seen a picture online as well, and I didn't pick up on this in the 2 times I've viewed it, so I don't know if it's fake, but from the comments I've seen on this picture on Twitter, I think it is right. In the list is H. Zemo, so Helmut Zemo's on his amends list, or list of amends, who's obviously he's the villain, isn't he? So he obviously thinks that he's done something wrong to him, but he never actually did anything to him, not that we know of anyway.
Yeah.
We don't know that he ever did anything to him, so I thought that was quite interesting if it's right. But basically, the therapist going on about how he needs to trust people, and he's ignoring Sam's text messages and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then we see him out of therapy, and he's in New York, and there's this old fella Yuri, who's having an argument with some guy who's putting rubbish in his bin, and he goes for lunch with him. And when I was watching it at first, I was like, this is sort of again putting across the fact that even though Bucky looks like he's in his 30s, he is an old man. He's 106 as we find out quite quickly.
Do you know what?
That's why he's hanging around with him.
I didn't see it like that. How did you saw see it as two lonely men.
Did you?
Yeah, because he talks about the fact that he's not got his family around him and stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
And he kind of sees himself in that because, again, after talking about his phone and the fact that he's made no phone calls to anyone except his therapist in the last week, he's in that same boat. He's got nobody. So at least if they've both got no one, they've got no one together, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, we were both wrong. That's not why he was hanging around with him. So, which we find out a little bit later on. But that was deep, that, Anthony. Well done. So yeah, and then Yuri. So they're having lunch together, and Yuri asks the waitress out for Bucky, and he agrees to a date. And then Yuri says he starts like looking at this plate of food, and he said it reminds him of his son, who died because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Did you get onto it at that stage that this is the guy who Bucky had killed?
No.
Did you get onto it?
I've just got onto it now.
You've just got onto it now.
Oh my god!
Wow, you've watched this twice.
Friggin' hell.
So as soon as he said my son died, I was like, right I am very disappointed in you. And you know what? I could edit this out, but I'm not going to.
No.
Everyone's going to have to know. Everyone's going to have to know.
I'm okay with
it. Anyway, but yeah, so that's why I was hanging around with him, because we didn't know that at that stage. It gets confirmed later.
Well, that's why I'm still saying Lonely Hearts Club.
No, it's
because
not.
I haven't got onto the fact that it's.
That's why I was laughing, saying that's really deep. That's really deep, but it's wrong. Yeah, that's not why.
But I said probably to you, which means that I didn't know it was yet wrong. So I was just like, probably will be wrong.
I kind of got onto that at that point, and I thought we'll just make you look like an idiot. We'll make you look like a tit in your words.
Well, Anthony. Okay,
it's all right. It's all right. It's good. It's entertainment. Anyway, we then cut to Sam briefly, and we meet Sam's sister Sarah. And her two boys, and I think Sam mentions that like when he left, they were babies, and now they're not grown up, but they're older. And we see the fact that they're running a business, and they're getting loads of food ready for the soup kitchen to obviously show that they're really down to earth and caring. And we see the boat that they've inherited from the parents, and she's, again, as you mentioned before, you see like the nitty gritty. You see the fact that like she's struggling. She's really struggling for money, so she wants to try and sell the boat. And again, obviously, we come back to that later on. We then see Bucky, and he's going on his date with the waitress from the restaurant. And again, something I'm really picking too far into this, but I picked up on it straight away was when he arrives at the restaurant, a police car goes past with its lights flashing and stuff like that. And my first instinct was, oh no, it's a police car. Bucky's gonna have to hide, and it's like he's not. Because he's been pardoned now, and I don't know whether that was just completely random or whether it was something put there by Marvel to be like, look, he's not on the run anymore. He's going on a date. He's got a normal life to a degree. So he has his date with the waitress. He even tells her he's 106 years old, but clearly she doesn't believe him. And then she does a bit more elaboration on Yuri, because obviously she knows the old guy he's been hanging around with, and she says that his son dying really messed him up, and it's not knowing how he died or why he died that's the worst part of it. And that is when Bucky goes to Yuri's apartment. He just leaves the date just leaves her high and dry, goes to the apartment, and we see the picture of the lad that the Winter Soldier killed, but somehow Anthony didn't pick up on the fact
I
that
didn't
was the
notice
guy
that
who
either.
got killed.
Oh, Jesus.
You didn't notice the picture? Literally,
No.
the screen zooms in on the picture.
Have I watched it twice and missed it?
I don't know how you've watched it twice. Have you been watching it, or is this
I've-
like when you went? Is this when you went to
Nick,
like
I'm
when
not
you went to
gonna lie
watch
to you.
Cars?
I've had a rough week.
Is this
And so, as much as I'm trying to concentrate, I think my mind's on so many things.
Is this like when you went to the cinema to watch Cars and ended up watching Monster House? Have you watched Have you watched Falcon the Winter Soldier? Have you been watching something else? Have you watched X-Men too?
I'm going to find out it's bloody My Little Pony or something.
It's like, who's Bucky? Who's Bucky? But yeah, so there's a picture there. There's a picture there. So we and you see as well that Yuri's on his list. So his little list of amends, and he can't cross him off because obviously he's not telling. I think he was going to try and tell him that he's the one who killed his son, and he sees the picture. He sees the picture of his son and walks off without doing it. We then get a very brief little section with Sam and Sarah packing up food for the homeless shelter, and basically Sam saying we're going to the bank. I've got a meeting booked at the bank. We're going to take out a loan. We're going to consolidate all the debt. And basically get us out, get out of the mess. And then we go back to Torres, who's obviously Sam's mate from the army, who was his man on the ground. And at first, he's at a gathering or a meet of this Flag Smashers terrorist organization. And again, at first, I was like, oh, he's a bad, he's a bad guy. He's I can't think of the word. He's like a double agent for the Flag Smashers, and he is bad, but he's not, is he? He told Sam that he was going to do some digging, and he's obviously gone to one of their events or meets to try and get a bit more information. And then we see it all kick off. So there's loads of people there. They've all been sort of dragged into the Flag Smashers because they're doing it all via social media. And some guy rolls up with a bag. The Flag Smashers, as we've seen in the trailer, they've all got these masks on with like a handprint, like a red handprint on it. I've just put my hand on my face and smudged all my glasses, and now
Do you know what I heard the muffle, and I knew that's exactly what you'd just done.
How professional are we? Anyway, so I'm going to try and read my notes through some of your glasses. So they give everybody masks, and then some dude comes flying out of a bank with two massive bags of cash or money, because we hear they say money, and everyone starts running around. And obviously it's a diversion tactic, so that when the police, because we're in Germany, so when the German police roll up, they don't obviously know who's who or who to arrest, so they just start arresting randoms. The guy who's jumped out of the window passes the bags of money onto somebody else, and then he starts to make his getaway, and then we see him attack a cop, and he kicks this German cop, and he goes flying into a wall. So he's got this guy who jumped out the window has got some sort of superpowers, whether it's a super serum or something like that. But he's on like he's on Steve Rogers level sort of thing. Maybe even more powerful, because when he hit him, that cop went flying into that wall, and then Torres tries to stop him and arrest him, and he puts Torres down in like 2 seconds. He just puts him on the floor and then stamps on his head, and somehow he manages to survive that. But
I was a bit like,
he proper put him on the floor.
Yeah.
So there's
like,
obviously
I genuinely,
power
do you know
there.
what? I thought that was going to start him off. I thought he was going to break his back, and I thought that was going to be the start of like an actual storyline of him now not being able to walk.
Did you?
I don't know
That's
why.
Dark. That's dark, that Anthony.
Well, you get it. You get it in other stuff, don't you? That's
You
how
do, but-
I think he became Oracle, didn't she?
Bloody hell, Anthony, that's a bit dark.
Batman.
Anyway, let's move away from
But
that.
I thought it was going to be like, because
No, I know what you mean.
when you've got a hero, you've always got kind of the brains and stuff as well, don't you?
Yeah.
As
You thought he
a
was going to be his
general
man in the.
rule.
You
So
thought he was going to be
I
Sam's
thought
man
he was
in the
going to be like
chair.
the tech dude, but he's bound to a wheelchair, which is why he can't go out and be on the streets and running around. I
Maybe.
thought that was kind of going to be an introduction to that. However, I also did notice the multiple similarities to the Winter Soldier.
Go on. In what way?
Well, the
Oh, the
guy,
guy-
had
the guy.
the long black scraggly hair and all that
Yeah,
kind
I
of stuff.
suppose. Didn't
And
even think of that. Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering whether that's purposeful and that's going to be the storyline for Winter Soldier, that they, after he's doing all this therapy and stuff, he's going to
Yeah.
be seen on video doing all this, and then he's going to be pulled in for questioning.
Yeah.
And he's got to clear his own name, which is why he then goes back to Sam. That's what I'm thinking happens.
Yeah. Good thing, yeah. Well, I was thinking of another thing with Winter Soldier when you said that, but let's do it in theories. Let's do it in theories. So he gets away. He beats up Torres and gets away. We then go to Sam and Sarah at the bank having their meeting, trying to get a loan, and this was cringe as anything. This was just like, I was just like watching this through my fingers. Like,
oh my god, the
this
little flap of the fingers, it made
that
me
was
cringe
horrendous.
So bad.
So the guy clearly recognizes Sam from somewhere, and he's asking him if he's like an American football player or something like that. He's like, I recognize you, and then Sam does that little flap with his wings, and I was just like, this is awful. This is just the most horrendous thing I've ever watched. And he gets onto the fact that he's the Falcon. And he asks him like, do you guys not get paid for doing what you do? And again, it's like, it's something you don't even think of. It's like, how are these people making a living? And clearly they're not. And he even says, we literally just rely on people's goodwill. But surely if he's been working for the Air Force for 6 months, he'd be getting paid by the Air Force.
Well, this is the thing, because he did say he's got government contracts.
Yeah,
so that to me means that there is some form of payment on that. However, they get paid for kicking Thanos' ass.
You'd think they'd get something, like a reward or something.
Well, yeah, but it's a reward is different. Like, that's a goodwill gesture thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
a reward
it is,
rather than we're paying you for the 72 hours that you spent battling.
Expenses and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, but it really grounds it, doesn't it? It really grounds it. It's like, how are these people?
And again, I love that like, that's the aspect that they're
Well, I've got a question.
Well.
I've got a question. If Sam doesn't get paid, if Sam, who is a human being, doesn't get paid anything for his stuff, how the hell did Vision afford to buy Wanda a house?
So Vision
he been playing with the
Vision
banks?
was a computer, wasn't he? And he must have been looking after all of Tony Stark's money. So maybe he's been fiddling the books a little bit, putting a bit away every now and again, because Tony wouldn't have seen it, and that's how he's done it.
Pepper and Morgan are fucked. They're going to try and go to the bank, and Vision will have taken
Pepper's
going to
be fuming.
She's going to be livid. But it makes you think. It does make you think. It's like, how did he do that? And then he can't. Yeah, so fair play. But yeah, you see. Obviously,
I mean, to be fair though,
and that's why it was uncomfortable, the conversation as well, and the whole thing about like denying them the loan, and it was, and I think we're going. I think the story to a degree, or I think it was, and I know it didn't specifically go down that route, but I think what happens at the end as well is it's like, are you not giving them? Basically, is there a touch of racism in this? And I think a lot of people think that John Walker's going to potentially go down that route as well, but it wasn't explicitly stated, but I think that's something that's potentially going to be explored with the whole like Black Lives Matter thing that's been going on. Obviously we're not going to like comment on it, like on the politics, but I think that's potentially something that they're going to go down the route of as well. But the whole thing was just it was just an uncomfortable. From the flappy wings to them being denied the loan, it was just an uncomfortable scene.
Well,
but it was good. It was powerful because of it.
Look how much he got on the defensive straight. Sorry, I've got a motorbike going past.
It's alright. We won't edit that out either. This is real life. We're talking about it being gritty and grounded. This is real life. Motorbikes drive past Anthony's window when he's trying to record the podcast.
No, like the fact that the second that I think it's Sarah that says, as soon as we need something, this is when it always tightens up, and he jumps to it and he's like, oh, no, I'm not. It's like he's going, that's not the route that we're going down. That's not why we're saying no, kind of thing. And it seems that it's quite a real reaction, because like there is the fear to offend and things like that. So I don't think Disney will explicitly.
I don't think Disney will explicitly say it. I think Disney are going to be very clever about it because it's Disney at the end of the day, and even though it does need
interpretation and stuff as well, isn't it?
I think that's how it will.
Especially when you look at like Disney in general, with all of the blog, like the little provisos they've put at the beginning of the older films that they've released and things like that. That they've made these massive changes in this last year, to try and kind of correct past misdoings. Can you say?
You can, yeah.
So, and I think that
whether it's enough is not for us to comment on. I don't think it's a comic book podcast.
It's a much bigger conversation, and it's not something that we're exploring. However, I do feel like it's following that same that same line.
Yeah, and I think that, and again, it was, as I said, it was uncomfortable, the whole thing, for multiple reasons, but I think that's what it needed to be, and that's why it was it was an uncomfortable, powerful scene.
Yeah.
So after that, we then go back to we see Sam trying to fix the boat, because obviously they've been denied the money, so he's obviously trying to get it working, and then Torres gets in touch and he shows him a video, because Torres has filmed this whole thing that's happened in Germany with the Flag Smashers. And Sam even points out how strong this guy is, who's like, you know, throwing the German cop against the wall. And then something which I think is what I want to get into in the theories is that Torres says, "What are you thinking? You don't think he could be a..." And then before he can say anything else, Sam shuts him down and says, "No, but I need to get on top of it." And it's like, what is he talking
I think I know
about?
what you're going to say now.
Well, let's do it in theories then. Let's do it in theory.
Okay.
Let's touch on that. And then Sarah comes in. Sarah comes into the room. She looks really, really upset. And she basically says, "You need to watch the TV." And the guy who said thanks to Sam for giving the Smithsonian the shield is basically stood on the podium, and he's waffling on a load of, sorry for want of a better word, bullshit about the fact that about America needs a hero, and it needs somebody to identify with, and it needs somebody to identify. I'm sure they're the words he uses, and it needs someone to, someone that they can rely on and look up to, a symbol to inspire people. He says, and he says, "We have a new Captain America," and then we see John Walker come out. In the weirdest looking Captain America costume I've ever seen, and he does like a little cheeky wink to the camera.
What made it weirder was the size of his chin. I'm sorry.
It was, wasn't it? But I've seen it's Wyatt, right? So Wyatt Russell plays him, who is Kurt Russell's son, and he's not got that. He doesn't look like that. I mean, it just looks like
So is it prosthetics
weird.
or something?
No, I don't think it's prosthetics. I think it's just the way that the chin strap sits on the helmet. It's just an awful helmet. It's like, I thought Cap's costume in Avengers 1 was bad, but this was like a whole different level.
We'll find
but I
out
think
that
that's what they're trying to make him look like, aren't they? They're trying to make him look
Captain America, and he'll end up being the Crimson Chin or something instead.
something like that. Yeah, can you imagine? But I think again, it's quite. I do think it's Marvel making it like it doesn't look right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like clever.
Yeah.
It doesn't sit right. But yeah, and then Sam looks absolutely devastated. This is all before the little wink, and I think that, and then that's when we see him wink. Something noticeable though, because in the comics he's not Captain America, he's US agent, and they specifically say he's the new Captain America in this, so they're clearly not going down the route of calling him US agent. Yeah. So he's a new Captain America, and that's that's the episode. I thought it was a good episode. I think the things that I really liked about it, the fact that it did start off with a load of action, which was good, and it was it was not that WandaVision was bad, but it was a nice.
Well, it's kind of a taster of this is what's gonna come.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, but then I do, even though it was a slow, not slow as in boring, but it was all.
It was a bit slower paced because of the introductory.
Exactly. Yeah, but I really appreciate. I mean, we've never had that much character development for Bucky.
No.
Ever. Bucky's always just. I mean, we didn't really get much character development for him in the first Cap, and then after that, he's just been. He's hardly said 2 words in any films. When you think about it, he's had so few lines. I mean, the most lines he's probably had were in Endgame, and even that was like hardly anything. So to get this much talking and character development, it really. I think what they're going for, and I think they've succeeded, is to sort of set him up as a good character who's gonna hopefully be in the MCU for a while.
And that's why I think they're going down the route of that guy looking like the Winter Soldier, because the mask is covering his face, so you're seeing that hairstyle. It's the whole Winter Soldier look, kind of a bit covered. And I think the idea that we're seeing that he's going straight, he's becoming a civilian, he's doing all that he can, but then it's consequences. Like, since you've said that word, I feel like that's been the theme right through this episode. Like,
what consequences?
Yeah, well, everything is a result of something. Like, it's not. It's like it's not quite the beginning of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but it's still the end of Endgame.
Yeah.
if that makes sense. You know,
Yeah, I know what you mean,
everyone's reeling, and this is what happened because of these other events that have taken place already. You know, none of it's been new just yet until obviously the reveal of the new Captain America at the end. Everything's been about, well, we're here because this happened. This is the consequence of what's gone on so far. So I quite like the fact
which is what Zemo is, isn't it? Zemo's story in Civil War, it was the consequence of all the stuff that had happened with Sokovia in Age of Ultron. It's the real life, you know, like we said, the grounded, the nitty gritty sort of part of it. And I think that's probably where it's going. But it looked, you know, really strong first episode. You know, it didn't end on it kind of ended on a cliffhanger, but can't wait for the second episode because to see where it's going. And I think it's going to be a lot more action packed, to sound cheesy, but I think it's going to be much heavier on that side of things. And whether I mean, we literally got a wink from John Walker as the new Captain America. We don't know anything really about him yet. I mean, I'm sure, you know, he's got an established background in the comics, but we don't know where he's going. Is he going to be like, maybe not actual Hydra, but he's going to be like Hydra level bad, like he is pure evil, or is he just some guy who's been picked? And you know, because Steve, at the end of the day, Steve was picked to be Captain America, and maybe reluctantly, but he was picked to be it. So maybe he's going to be a decent guy. I doubt it, but I think it's going to be quite interesting to see where. The
thing is with Cap though, I always thought that he wasn't the first attempt. I don't know whether that's
I don't know whether it was the first attempt. I don't know. We'll thingy try. We'll. I know Red Skull
because they were saying he
before,
fit the trial perfectly, didn't they? For what they were doing, so I didn't know whether it had been trials that had gone through before, but then he was just the one that it worked on.
Well, there's loads after, but I don't know if we ever knew if there were any before. But so good episode. Should we do? Let's do theories then. So go on. What you said, you've got loads of theories. What are your? Go on. Okay, let's have your theory of the week.
So obviously, my first theory is that this guy could be proclaimed to be the Winter Soldier, and that the whole idea is that Bucky's going to have to go to Sam for help to clear his name, basically, after the fact that he's already been pardoned for what's happened in the past. This could completely cock up everything that he's working towards. So part of me thinks that could be a potential. I also think that, I mean, we haven't seen Emily Van Camp yet, who plays Peggy Carter's daughter. What's her name? Sharon. And
no, we haven't seen her yet, have we?
I think that they're going to ask her for help because obviously she's government and she knows them better than
I think she's going to be asking. I get the impression from the trailers that she's the one on the run though, and she's going to be asking them for help. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I do.
Unless the idea is that she does help them and then has to go on the run because of that. Yeah. Again, I don't know, but I mean, I think that's how she's going to be introduced to it. Whether, I mean, I don't know the background of John Walker and stuff like that, so I don't know for certain. And Marvel do play on things a little bit and twist things, you know, to make it their own. I don't know whether whoever this mystery mask man is that's got this power has something to do with John Walker and the guy, and John Walker being Captain America. This massive thing has happened. You know, the blip, the Thanos, all of that kind of stuff has happened, and now it seems, at the moment, it seems quite small scale. It's a little terrorist attack. They're saying they need someone to protect America. Is this something that they've created so that they can get the new Captain America out so that he looks like the big superhero, so everyone just falls in love with him straight away?
Yeah, because it's good timing, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it?
Really good timing. Yeah. So I like that.
I don't know. That's kind of the way I've.
So maybe it is like not Hydra, but maybe it is all sort of, you know, all being controlled, or Flag Smashers could be the Flag Smashers could be part of Hydra.
Could be why they've got such a naff name.
Naff name, yeah. make him sound rubbish, because he can't think of anything better. Because I mean, Hydra's not that good a name, is it? But yeah, no, I like that. So I think I don't know whether the theories, but maybe questions, and I think probably my theory is that you linked obviously this dude who came out the bank with the money and who like beat up the German cops as looking like Winter Soldier. Is that, I mean, Zemo had sort of got into where they were making the new Winter Soldiers in Russia, hadn't he, in Civil War? So has he managed to get I think he's probably got hold of the serum, the test serum, that made those, and he's creating his own super soldiers, and that's where they're getting the powers. That's where they're getting the powers from.
That's what you think the thing with the power is.
That's what.
Do you know what?
That's what I think is the most likely thing.
I thought you were going to say mutant.
Well, no. Well, that was my next one. That was my next one. That was my non-ridiculous theory. This is my ridiculous theory. The mutants. They're all mutants. No, I've got a couple of different ideas. Well, I think it's got to be linked to whatever Sam didn't want Torres to say. So Torres said you don't think he's and he shut him down straight away. What is? Why would you be that? I mean, if it's you don't think the super soldiers, why would you shut that? Why would you shut that down? Why would you just be like? Why wouldn't you let him? Why wouldn't you want him to say that? So, is it? I mean, yeah, they could be mutants, but I'm thinking more along the lines of, he was in the trailers. He says like, is it? It's one of the. It could be one of the big three: aliens, androids, or wizards. I still think there's more to the wizards thing because I don't understand why he'd bring it up wizards. Yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised if they were aliens and they're Skrulls.
Okay.
And maybe their team, because we're getting Secret Invasion, which is going to be about the Skrulls being, secretly running organizations on Earth and stuff like that. Are they Skrulls, which is why they're more powerful? Which is why are they just turned into? Have they just turned into that? But then would they wear masks or would they just be like turned into random humans?
Yeah. No, I like
but
that.
They could be Skrulls.
I think if Skrulls were going to come in, I think it'd be hilarious if they did it like a Cocoon style, where they're just starting to take over old people homes.
Why would they take over old people's homes?
Because let's
go on, elaborate.
Let's get back to Captain Marvel, right?
I require elaboration, as White Vision says.
Like, how brilliant was the fight scene?
Yeah, it was good.
Captain Marvel and the Owl Woman.
But I can't see them going, let's all dress like old people so we look really cool when we kick the shit out of the
because nobody hits
youngins.
old people. So if they just started infiltrating and then everyone's like, oh, it's just old people, and then suddenly they just marched from all of the old people homes and with this massive army that's been infiltrating this entire time. That's a good secret army.
It's a good secret army. No one's going to expect it, but
exactly.
I don't see the need for it. Yeah.
Right, so I'm gonna speak to our Kev.
You email Kev. You speak to Kev. I'll DM Ryan Reynolds on Twitter and we'll make it happen. We're gonna get this movie. We're gonna get this movie about us. Yeah. You could be an old person, and I don't know who I'll be. But it's good. Yeah, it could be. I don't think they're old people. But I suppose it could be. They could be Skrulls, couldn't they? But I don't know. I don't know whether we're gonna get anything. I'm just wondering why we're going to Madripoor, or is it just literally going to be like they're there for 5 minutes and it's mentioned and it's like a quick little cameo similar to Pietro or fake Pietro?
Yeah, it could just be.
Well, could be something like that.
Not even that. It could just be the setup.
It could be, but it might not even be the setup. I mean, look at WandaVision when it was like we're getting Evan Peters. First, all we knew was we're getting Evan Peters in WandaVision because we knew that was happening before WandaVision came out. We knew he'd been cast in it, and everyone's thinking, well, is it? We know we're getting multiverse. Is he going to be Pietro? And then he literally rolls up in episode 4 or 5 as Pietro Maximoff, and it's just like that's it. We're in the multiverse now, and it wasn't. Yeah. It was just it was a prank. It was the Mandarin being done again. So just because they've said that we're going to be in Madripoor doesn't mean it could literally just be a stopover. It could be something's there. There's a MacGuffin there or something like that they've got to chase. It might not have anything to do with it.
Well, yeah, but like going. I think it's the same as the Mandarin or even Thanos when you look back at it. The quick clips to just establish its existence. Yeah. So that when they come back to it, it's not. Yeah. So it's like it's not us going, oh my god, they're just bringing this in and it's now the center of the story. Yeah. It's, they're establishing that this place does exist, so that when they come back to it, they don't have to reintroduce it. If that makes sense. Yeah. So I think it might be along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe.
I don't know.
Hopefully it's going to have something to do with mutants, but I don't know. Fingers crossed. We'll know more next week, or we probably won't. We probably won't know anything until episode 6, and we'll still probably be scratching our heads. But it will not stop us from ridiculous theories and talking about it on the podcast. So we are pretty much. I think we're pretty much done. We probably could have squeezed in Justice League on this, but we're not going to. We're still going to do a bonus episode.
Yeah.
So we're going to record that in the next couple of days, and we'll release that on Tuesday. So next week we'll be back to one episode. We'll do the news, and we'll do Falcon the Winter Soldier episode 2. If you've got any ridiculous theories that you want to let us know, and we'll mention them on the next episode, then let us know. Get in touch with us on Twitter. So we're at Superhero Thing on Twitter, and you can also find us on Facebook. If you find us on Anchor, so anchor.fm/that superhero thing, which is where we host the podcast, you can also go on there and leave us a voice message, and we can put that in the show as well. We'll figure it out. We don't know how to do it yet because we haven't had one, but we'll do it. We'll figure it out. And yeah, I think that's us. So from me, thanks very much for listening, and we'll release the next episode in a couple of days' time.
Thank
Anthony?
you, guys. Yeah, all good.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, guys. See you soon.
Bye.